This is the Morning Tailgate.
I'll just tell the Raider Nation that we have to earn your trust. We got to earn those seats in the stands by putting a great product on the field. Words will not do it. It's our actions.
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Fire up the cue. Grab a beverage or two and settle in. This is the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker, coming to you live from Las Vegas here on a Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026, the day before the rookies officially report to Raiders HQ and ramp up the start of the NFL season. Training camp is nearly upon us. Welcome in, everybody. Some news, courtesy of the Rush Podcast. Max Crosby, not a rookie, clearly, veteran, but will be reporting with the rookies tomorrow.
Condors.
So an early Condor sighting for the silver and black can only spell good news, I would imagine, as he ramps up on a personal level, getting back from injury and getting ready for the season. A lot to get to this morning. Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal set to join us in hour number 2. Tape Don't Lie's Marcus Johnson. I know he is foaming at the mouth because we are a week away from getting some more footage of guys and seeing the Raiders on the field, breaking down that film. So we'll talk to Marcus, see what he's looking for, what he's got an eye out for. And you, as always, 702-365-9200. We're going to have a deep conversation on one Fernando Mendoza as the rookies get set to report tomorrow. But, Vinny, before we step there, Max Crosby announcing he's going to be showing up early with the rookies tomorrow. That strikes you how?
Well, with Max, I think he lives at the facility, so it's more about he's going to be greeting them as they walk in, But I kid. No, this is obviously he's on the road to recovery, so every second counts for him. It's a good sign. That he's going to be ready to go to some extent, whether it's full throttle or a tempered version of him to start training camp. We all know had some cleanup type knee surgery during the offseason, and it was cause for a lot of storylines, no doubt about it, this being the next one. But I think obviously it's a good sign that he's ready to go, itching to go, and wants to get in there early and take advantage of every second possible to make sure he's ready to rock and roll when the season starts. Now, again, we are a day away, 24 hours from the rookies reporting. Something that is notable we have talked about on this show. Haven't really worried about it, but, deadlines make deals, I suppose. Fernando Mendoza, Jermod McCoy, 2 of 8 remaining rookies in this past draft class without contracts. Obviously, the lack of contracts did not stop them from participating and working during OTAs and in that 6-week ramp-up period ahead of training camp. But what do we know, Vinny? What does it stand? Should worry creep in at this point, or all still good? I think it's all still good, and it's two different, kind of situations, and everyone needs to understand there's not a penny more that's going to go to either player. They're slotted where they're slotted. Obviously, Fernando was the first pick overall. Jermod was a fourth-round pick, so the money doesn't change whatsoever. From Fernando's perspective, it's really can only be one thing, basically, and that is how does the signing bonus get paid out? And the Raiders have typically been a team that they basically chop up the signing bonus into multiple payments. I think it's 3 usually for them. It all gets paid. It's just it gets paid in 3 increments, and whereas sometimes the player wants the money up front, like at signing. Some teams do it that way as well. It's important to note that Ty Simpson, the other quarterback that was drafted in the first round by the Rams, still hasn't signed as well. And the Rams are traditionally a team like the Raiders where they chop up the signing bonus, and sometimes, that can cause a little bit of friction with the player, and so they'll get that worked out, I'm sure. In Jermad's case, once again, he's slotted where he's slotted. Now, I would assume, from his perspective, he wants to get his contract fully guaranteed. That's not usually what happens with fourth-round picks. The only thing that gets guaranteed beyond, beyond first-round picks is the signing bonus for a player. You get your signing bonus, that is guaranteed, but it's a basically pay-as-you-go situation with the rest of with the years on your contract, with your salaries on your contract. I'm sure Jermad is making the case, hey, I was supposed to be a first-round pick. At the very least, I should get my entire, 4-year contract guaranteed. Hard to imagine that the Raiders are going to budge off of that. Whatever the reasons were for Jermad to fall to a fourth-round pick, and we all know kind of why. There were concerns about the knee. Whatever the case is, for any fourth-round pick that was picked in the fourth round, you're a fourth-round pick. That's what your situation is, and I would be surprised if the Raiders, covered or the entirety of the contract. We'll see how that all gets worked out, but I can understand where the player is coming from, but I could also understand where the team is coming from. Football is football. This is professional sports. This is real life. There is some, concern about the longevity of it. So for Jermad McCoy, that's the big question with him. So I can see the Raiders being very careful in what they guarantee moving forward.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Shedeur Sanders, did he not get his contract fully guaranteed as a fifth-round
I'd have to go
pick?
back. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at that. So let me do that right now.
So because the reason why I asked that, I remember the reporting, Clay, that there was something different about Shedeur Sanders' contract. Obviously, he was a fifth-round pick. Obviously, he's a quarterback, and that situation is not entirely apples to apples with a Jermad McCoy, right? One's an injury, one's a guy who was thought to be a top 3 pick, a top 5 pick in the draft, and turned out to be round 5. Vinny's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I remember Shedeur Sanders' contract. He got his fully guaranteed, which would be kind of an anomaly of itself to other rookie contracts.
I don't think so.
Was that not
no.
Afterwards, there was something in there from with group licensing deals and trading card royalties that during the rookie year he received a record-breaking $17.7 million payout from the NFLPA.
Okay, so
yeah,
maybe that was separate from the contract then itself.
No, the only thing that was
I thought his agent got something in there. Again, I should have double-checked that, but it just struck me as we were talking about Jermad McCoy.
The only thing that was guaranteed was the $447,000 and change signing bonus. So he's on your typical that. Yeah, that money just represented, I guess, his cut of merchandise sales, which his jersey definitely was, pretty highly bought. So I could see that. But I think wasn't there a second round pick? I'd have to go back and look at it. There was a second round pick that got some major guarantees last year from.
Well, it was the
Texans,
receiver. Yeah, it was the Texans. Remember we were all shaking our fists and cursing at Nick Caserio because he set the domino that fully guaranteed the second round pick, the first to ever do it, and then that's why every second round pick and some of the early thirds were the last two signed, Jack Besh being one of those in last year's class. I just thought I remember, again, if I was wrong, I was wrong. But I thought Shedeur Sanders had something that he got more guarantees than a typical fifth-round pick, which is why I was wondering if Jermad McCoy's agent is trying to do something similar.
I'm sure that's exactly what he's doing.
Right, because of the – but I was trying to figure out if there was –
some precedent
already. Again, I know not quite apples to apples. Either way, that deal's not been done quite yet. Fernando Mendoza's deal not done quite yet. I would imagine Ty Simpson, who has not signed either, is also waiting. Maybe, and the Rams are probably waiting for Fernando as well to see what those look like.
Yeah, from Jack Besh, for Jack Besh, what was ultimately guaranteed for him, and again, he was a bottom of the second round pick. He got $5 million guaranteed. That was his signing bonus, which was just over $2 million, plus his 2025 and 2026 salaries were guaranteed at signing, plus $916,000 of his $1.5 million 2027 salary. So it wasn't fully guaranteed. The fourth year isn't guaranteed, but he got. He definitely got some guarantees to the tune of $5 million, just over $5 million.
That a baby Jack? Way to get it.
Good job, kid.
Agent, way to get it. So while we wait on that, and to be honest, those can get done while we're talking now. Fernando Mendoza, Jermon McCoy can report tomorrow, even without it. Obviously, not having the contracts didn't stop them from doing what they needed to do, being part of the plan that was OTAs, mandatory minicamp. So we will see what that looks like. But again, until there's something to worry about, nothing to worry about at this particular moment. We move forward. But before we move forward, we look back. Albert Breer, Sports Illustrated, reported on Monday in his, first of the season notebook that he posted on SI, talking about how the plan seemingly is Fernando Mendoza is going to be sprinkled in with the first team during training camp. So with Kirk Cousins in the first team. Now, he also talked about, and this is a guy that was on the journey with Fernando Mendoza with the Raiders in terms of what went down in the lead up to him being taken first overall, the plan, talking with Spy Tech, talking with all the Raiders front office and everybody associated with Mendoza. He was part of that journey, right? So when he sits there and says the plan right now is for Fernando to be sprinkled in with the first team during training camp, that is obviously notable, but there is going to be a strategic and plan in place from Clint Kubiak for their rookie quarterback, which brings us kind of to our discussion of the day and something that was prompted when we talked to Ryan McFadden yesterday. And Vinny, I thought you phrased it wonderfully yesterday. What is the ideal transition, the passing of the torch, if you will, from a Kirk Cousins to a Fernando Mendoza, assuming that Kirk is the one getting the start at the beginning of the season? Now, again, training camp blows that scenario out of the water. Fernando goes out and just dazzles, right? I think we all understand that. Yeah. But if the plan is, which we believe it is, for Kirk Cousins to be the one to begin, what does that ideal transition look? Is there by definition a true ideal situation? Is there ever going to be a perfect scenario where it goes from Kirk Cousins to Fernando Mendoza, everybody's happy, the Raiders are still winning, vibes are high, positivity is through the roof? What does that look like? We want to hear from you. We want to hear your scenarios. I know we've had the discussion, when do you think Fernando starts? But this, I want to, as we are now less than a week away from training camp getting going, what does that look like? What does that transition of power to Fernando Mendoza look like? 702-365-9200. And the beauty of this is, I don't know if there's a perfect answer out there, Vinny.
Well, there's not a perfect answer in terms of this is exactly. I mean, I guess you could hold yourself to a plan. You draw up a plan and say this is what the plan is going to be. By week 4, we're going to get him on the field. Period. And whatever's happening's happening. You can decide that if you want, but it rarely plays out the way you ideally plan it. I was just looking at Drake May. It feels like the Raiders are kind of following maybe what the Patriots did with Drake May his first year. He got his first start October 13th. So that would be, about 4 games into the season, 3 or 4 games into the regular season. He had also gotten some mop-up time, in coming in for the quarterback that was starting for them to start the season. But then it was full bore ahead from October 13th, did I say? For the rest of the season, that's Drake May. Now, he was not the first pick overall, but he was a top 3 pick, so it's a good comparison to make. That particular year, Caleb Williams started game 1 for the Chicago Bears, and they had a pretty decent, was it Tyler Paget? How do you pronounce his last name? I forget his last name. Yeah, the guy that waxed the Raiders in Chicago. She's like, who is this guy? Anyway, bad memories. So they had somebody that had some starting games under his belt, but they decided to go with Caleb Williams from day one, and everything's worked out beautifully for the Chicago Bears and for Caleb Williams. So there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. There is no perfect scenario. I would probably lean more toward what the Patriots did and how the Patriots handled Drake May. But the caveat that we keep talking about is if the Raiders are 4-0, 3-1, there's probably no reason to make that move just yet. And so I think they'll let the season play out a little bit longer if they get off to a really good start like that, and let that ride out and see where it goes, because it could go to a special place. We've seen that before too. You catch a little lightning in the bottle and you roll with it. And I think that would be the one reason why Fernando's injection into the starting lineup would get delayed. Short of that, if they're 2-2, if they're 3-4, something along those lines at that particular point, or maybe even 2-3, let's say, then I could definitely see Fernando getting put into the situation around that time. Now, part of that is going to be up to him. How do you look? How are you absorbing things? How are you starting to look in practice? Are you grasping this whole thing? Can you go out there and acquit yourself really well? But if I was going to go for an ideal way, that would be it. Somewhere around October, mid-October or so, if he doesn't start the season right off the bat, that's when I would prefer to get Fernando out there, because I feel like it's really important for Fernando to be out there in his rookie season to really get some practical playing time and not just over there watching from the sidelines. You can only learn so much over there on the sidelines. You got to get out there and play. It's a different game, a different pace, different speed level, different defenses that are doing crazy things that you never saw in college. Time to get out there on the field and actually experience all that.
So mid-October would be week 5, week 6. Week 5 at New England, week 6 home to Buffalo. And again, as we have talked about and explained, that is kind of in that heart of that chunk of the season where there's never any gimmies, right? But there's definitely no gimmies in that part of the season for the Raiders.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be scared about that. This is the NFL. He's a big boy. He played in some really big games in college football, the biggest stages of the biggest stages, where all the pressure was on his shoulders, whether it's going into the game, during the game. Fernando Mendoza met the challenge every single time. He's wired like that. He's one of those dudes. I'm not even going to worry about who. This is me personally. I'm not going to worry about, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to worry about who the opponent is or what the schedule looks like. I don't believe in acting scared at all. I think you have to be confident and know your guy and know that your guy is wired that way. And he's to me, he's one of those unbreakable dudes. I'd be shocked if he got broken by certain situations. There's just too much that he's done and overcome in his career to this point for me to think that would be a worry. It is a worry for some players. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, there are guys that are wired a little bit differently. I think Fernando Mendoza is wired perfectly for this.
Well, and Clay, the reason why you bring up the teams in that little pocket, and Vinny, I agree with you, but we had the conversation when the schedule came out and things, okay, what's the perfect time? Well, that's the thing. I don't know if there is a perfect time based on the schedule and who the Raiders play when and where. You look at the bye week, week 13, waiting till after the bye week is too far gone, in my opinion, for Fernando Mendoza. Yeah. You're only getting him 5 games, albeit that would be the quote-unquote, on paper, easiest part of the Raiders' schedule after the bye week. But that feels like you've lost a lot of ground in that respect. And then when you try and find a perfect, quote-unquote, perfect spot in that meat and potatoes part of the season, there's not a lot of perfect answers. No,
so I think what you kind of do is you try to do these little things that you've seen over the years where starting week 1, Fernando starts the third quarter, does a couple series perhaps, in each game, leading up to a game where he will eventually start. So eventually when he does start, it's not the first time that he's on the field for an NFL regular season game. See what I mean?
So you almost take like a preseason approach where you just throw him and give him a quarter.
Yeah, give him a quarter. Start the third quarter and let him kind of like ease into that. And and when that day eventually comes, it won't be too much to just throw at you because you could envision maybe the home games against Buffalo and the Rams. Okay, a daunting task, but you don't want that to be the very first time he steps foot on the field and starts taking snaps from center for a regular season game.
I would only do that though if the situation dictated it. If the Raiders are way out in front or if they're way behind. That I just if if the Raiders are in a competitive football game, right, one way or another, it would be hard for me to the locker room. The locker room knows, and if all of a sudden you're just injecting Fernando into the game. I don't know. I don't know how that would go over well, especially if he goes out there and throws an interception. Something bad happens, and you're in a competitive game, and all of a sudden it's no longer a competitive game because maybe he messed up. That's a tough argument to make to the rest of the players. Now I do think, Clay, I'm with you. I want to get him on the field at some point earlier in those games or before he makes the first start, but I would let the situation dictate that rather than just do that as part of a plan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just saying we're definitely going to do this, and no matter, regardless of the situation, that wouldn't be good at all. That would be actually a detriment to everybody.
It's going to be interesting because history is typically on the side of the number one overall pick that is a quarterback starting week one. The last 6 number one overall picks that were quarterbacks started week one. Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield, prior to that, started in week 4. And prior to that, Jared Goff had to sit behind Case Keenum till week 11.
And again, I mentioned yesterday the Rams were in a little bit of a different situation. They traded way up to the number one pick, so it wasn't like they were just a 2-win team, 3-win team the season before. They actually had a pretty good defense, and they thought they had a pretty decent offense. That was laughable. Shout out to Jeff Fisher for all that. But they felt like, hey. I remember literally talking to him about this. Hey, if we could score just 19 points a game, blah, 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 we have a great defense, we can win, 9-10 games or so. That was his plan. Unfortunately, the offense was way worse than he thought it was going to be, and so. But that was the reason why they sat Jared Goff, because they had a pretty good team and they actually fancied themselves as a quasi playoff contender at that point with a quarterback in Case Keenum that he had a lot of trust in. He's a little gamer kind of a dude, and was a decent enough quarterback, and they felt like they could win some games with Case while they developed Jared Goff. So that was a little bit different situations than the ones that you just quoted, most of whom were just really bad football teams that had no real aspirations going into the next year with their rookie quarterback, and they valued getting that first pick overall onto the field as quickly as possible and getting him up to speed as quickly as possible for future payoff.
One just slight note, Sherry up on the text line says that rookies cannot participate without a rookie contract. That is accurate. They can still report but they cannot be on the field. So that is correct. That's why I say let's not worry until it's time to worry when they get out on the field. Because then we can have that conversation when players hit the field and there's no Fernando because there's no contract, et cetera, et cetera. So there, just a little update there. 702-365-9200. What is the ideal? What is the perfect scenario? The transition of power from Kirk Cousins to Fernando Mendoza this training camp, this season. How do you see it? How do you feel it will play out in a most ideal scenario? 702-365-9200. We're going to open up the phone lines. As I said, Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, hour number 2. Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie, hour number 3. Until then, we want to hear from you, Raider Nation, 702-365-9200. But first,
Hey guys, are you craving real Mexican food that's been doing it right for generations? Then it's time for Sal's Mexican Restaurant, a California Central Valley tradition since 1942. We're talking about the kind of food that keeps everybody coming back. Stacked burritos, sizzling fajitas, legendary enchiladas, and those award-winning tamales that everybody's talking about. And here's the best part. Whether you're in Selma, Madera, or Fresno, Sal's has a location ready for you. Plus, Raider Nation, listen up. Sal's is all about the silver and black. Game day, fight night, anytime. This is your spot. Can't make it in? No problem. You can get Sal's delivered straight to your door wherever you are. You just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com. That's salsmexicanrestaurant.com and place your order right now. They'll deliver it to you wherever you are. Don't wait. Don't settle. Sal's Mexican Restaurant, tradition, flavor, and Raider pride served up fresh every single day.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the morning tailgate.
Got to get to the 8. He's going to take off and run. Mendoza weaves his way first and goal. Diving toward the end zone. Touchdown! That's why he won the Heisman Trophy.
I think the perfect rookie season for me would be the best version of me that I can become, and best serve my teammates, best serve my coaches, and best serve whatever organization and fan base I'm a part of.
That is one Fernando Mendoza via Sports Illustrated prior to being drafted by the Raiders, when he was asked what his perfect rookie season in the NFL looks like. Didn't include stats, didn't include names, just included a mindset, being the best version of he for not only himself, but his teammates as well. Prior to that, obviously Reese Davis on the call of the iconic diving touchdown in the national championship game. And as I was listening to it, Vinny and Clay, how excited is Raider Nation for that call to not be the most iconic call of Fernando Mendoza's career?
Well, first of all, full disclosure, Clay is in charge of all that, right? You know, he does the sound and everything like that, does a fantastic job doing that. So, Clay, if you're going to be doing that, get him on the field ASAP. The perfect scenario is day one. I want to see Fernando Mendoza out there for the Raiders.
I love you guys. Let's go.
You know, that brought back some great memories. Just honestly, I mean, we had to watch that through a Raiders lens because that's what we do. We cover the Raiders, and the Raiders by that point, you know, had the first pick, right? By that point they had the first pick overall, or they were close to it. I can't remember the timeline. College football plays so long nowadays. Anyway, the point is we watched Fernando through a Raiders lens because there was a possibility that he'd be somebody that we're going to be covering. On the other hand, I was also watching it as a football fan, and that was just great theater and a great memory watching that game. So hearing that and revisiting that, now I want Fernando to be on the field to start the season. What the heck with it? Let's go.
Now you sound like me, just changing thoughts mid-show. That's what it's. But
that's kind of been my thing anyway.
No, I know. What I'm saying is. I'm saying is, last night, as I'm kind of going through this exercise myself, because I was looking at the schedule, I was looking at different things, and I'm trying to be, okay, what is the perfect transition of power from Kirk Cousins to Fernando Mendoza? Understanding that the plan, at least as of now, is for Kirk to start. I guess the correct answer to this exercise is that there is no transition of power and that Fernando just wins it. The team is competent enough around him, I'm talking about the offensive line, to where there's an understanding that offensive line is rock solid enough for a rookie quarterback, and that he just goes out, gets sprinkled in, as Albert Breer reported earlier in the week, with the first-team offense throughout training camp, lights it up in practices, has a great week in Houston, does well in the preseason game, shows himself well, and then away we go week one against Miami.
Yeah, and look, Vince, when you say the plan, I firmly believe the plan is we're going to let this thing play out and not make it a daily competition or anything like that. I think truly the plan is, I'll speak for the Raiders here, hey, we're good with what we have in place to fit whatever the scenario might be. If he's just a little bit short, coming up a little bit short in training camp, we feel great that we've got Kirk Cousins here, and we'll ride that out until, at that point it becomes when Fernando is ready / hey, how are we playing as a football team? And we feel great about handling whatever the scenario might come beyond that. But we're also completely fine with our plan, with Fernando saying, I'm the guy. You don't need to go to Kirk Cousins. We're completely fine with that plan too. So, or we're completely fine with the plan producing that outcome as well. So from there, that's why I keep saying the Raiders are operating from a position of strength rather than desperation. They feel really good about Kirk Cousins. They feel really good about Fernando Mendoza. They just got to see if it's Fernando Mendoza day one or a little bit down the road. And so that's the plan. The plan is to be completely open-minded and not corner themselves into any sort of a position. Most likely, Kirk Cousins will get the start, but most likely, we've seen that before, where most likely is changes based on what happens, and I think that's the best way to approach it.
Well, how many times did we talk about that scenario? Not that scenario, but because of who was here last year with Pete Carroll. Mm-hmm. The plan was for Matt Flynn to come in, just sign a big old contract. Russell Wilson comes in as third-round pick, and all of a sudden does Russell Wilson things. Again, it's not apples to apples, but what I'm saying is, to Vinny's point, we've seen plans get thrown out the door, and that's the one thing I guess that's a little bit unknown with this new grouping, Clint Kubiak, the coaching staff, is it's one thing to have a plan. It's another thing, how near and dear are you sticking to that plan of if, and I cannot capitalize the if the plan is Kirk Cousins starting week 1, right? That's their plan going into training camp, unless otherwise noted. How much are they clinging to that? Like, how much does Fernando have to do in training camp? Like, how does I keep using the word dazzle. Does he have to just blow them away in order for them to deviate from that plan? That's kind of what we don't know, right? Like,
I think I don't know that it has to be a dazzle situation. I mean, he's going to have his moments. Don't get me wrong. Good quarterbacks do, and but I don't know that dazzle is what he needs to do. Right? What I think he needs to do is there's a couple things. Number one, and we keep saying this, and Vince, you've brought this up many times. Can the Raiders support him from an offensive standpoint in terms of the blocking and all that? So let's just assume that they feel good about that part of it, all right? Because if they don't, then he's not. But if they do, then he has a real chance. And so from his standpoint, I think it's less about dazzle and more about, hey, how much of this offense can we comfortably run with him under center right now? And can he go out there and play football that would allow us to be a competitive football team? So can he learn and develop in real time on the field while also being somebody that we could rely on to play good, solid football and be in games and it not be just a complete zero at quarterback for us, or we're just playing with one hand tied behind our back because of our quarterback, because of the deficiencies of our quarterback. So less to me about dazzling and more about, hey, we feel pretty good about where he is right now, that he could go out there and help us play competitive football. And we'll, obviously he's not going to know the offense the way Kirk Cousins is, but we as a staff will put together game plans on a week-to-week basis that accounts for where he is in the playbook and construct and build game plans that are centered around that and allow him to go out there and play at a nice clip that gives us a chance to go be competitive.
I think that's the right answer from a macro view, but my question becomes then on that premise, what you just said, Vinny and Clay, this is the part that becomes really interesting. Like, what's that threshold? At what point does Fernando have to show that in camp in order for that decision to get made? Can it be up until the very last day of training camp, last preseason game, whatever it is? I ask that because as this entire offseason has looked at the big picture, right? We have looked at the big picture, talked big picture, that it may not be about this season. In the grand scheme of things, it's for the next 3, 5, 10 years. But when you get to that start of the season and you have vets like a Max Crosby, like those guys on the team, where the entire season is in front of you and you're watching this, I put in quotes, quarterback battle, and a decision's got to be made. While there was going to be plenty of excitement for Fernando, if Kirk Cousins is showing what we expect Kirk Cousins to do in training camp, because he has the familiarity, because he's the veteran, that becomes the question: is what does the coaching staff hold on to early?
Yeah, because you're going to see a lot of lessons learned in camp, but even in the preseason, you're not going to see both quarterbacks having equal time. I don't expect to see a whole lot of Kirk Cousins out there during preseason, so it might come down to those final weeks of the practices leading up to the regular season to go and decide, all right, who gives us our best chance to win. And it's very tempting and very tantalizing to know that the Miami Dolphins, which is starting to become regarded as one of the weaker teams in the NFL, are you tempted to start week 1 against a Miami Dolphins team, a rookie quarterback, just because you know that is a team that's also in transition with a new head coach, Jeff Hafley?
Keep an eye on how many first-team reps Fernando Mendoza gets in that practice against the Houston Texans and how he looks in those first-team reps. I really believe that is going to go a long way in kind of sizing up where he is at that particular moment. And if he's starting to get a lot of first-team reps in that setting, in that practice, I think that's a pretty strong sign that might be the case. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's way in the favor of Kirk Cousins in that setting, or if Fernando just doesn't look very good in that setting, then I think it changes the picture a little bit. So, to me, I don't think that this is going to go down to the last practice of training camp or the last week of training camp. I think the Raiders are gonna feel one way or another, good, bad, or indifferent, coming out of that week in Houston.
702-365-9200 is the number. We want to hear from you. The ideal transition of power from Kirk Cousins to Fernando Mendoza, assuming that Kirk is the quote-unquote starter. When does that happen? What is the perfect situation, scenario to see one Fernando Mendoza? We're going to get to the text line. We're going to keep the phone lines open. Get to you coming up next. But first, got a little summer fun. We're going to SoCal, baby. Theme parks, Disneyland, Universal, 3-night stay in an Anaheim hotel. It could be yours. All you got to do is text in the keyword of the day on this day, Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. Text in the word Eagle, E-A-G-L-E, Eagle, to 702-365-9200, and you are entered for a chance to go visit Splash Mountain. What's your ride at Universal, Clay?
I like the
Back to the Future.
I like the Back to the Future. Yeah, that's the one.
Back to the Future. Didn't they? What was that movie? What was the Backdraft? Didn't they have a Backdraft ride at Universal?
That's right, with the Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, I didn't understand the ride, but just a lot of heat. It's a lot of heat.
How do we burn other humans? That's always the one people want to line up with. But then again, they've done the tours forever with like Jaws and the Psycho House.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, where you're on the bus,
sure,
going through the lots.
Sure, and Moses is parting the Red Sea.
Yeah, you have a chance to do that. You have a chance to go on that bus.
You're welcome.
All you got to do is text in. Word of the day. Eagle, 702-365-9200. Courtesy of your friends here at Raider Nation Radio 920 and Terribles. More from the Morning Tailgate next.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR920AM. Let's dig in to the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
The advice that he's given me is just off preparation, and you see a common theme with all great quarterbacks and them being prepared, if not over prepared, and them making sure they're doing everything possible and being prepared to the max point in order to best serve their teammates and to best serve and give themselves the best chance to succeed on Sundays. And seeing the lengths that Kirk has gone to on the mental aspect of it, and the way that he stays after hours, is there till 7 p.m. at night studying, is something that I look up to and I'm looking to replicate and get my process refined off his.
That is one Fernando Mendoza, courtesy of the Rush podcast with Max Crosby, talking about the impact Kirk Cousins has had on him. And I love hearing that from just on a personal. It's not, hey, when you're making that throw, make sure your elbow, it's none of that. It's just how you prepare. Because how many times have we talked about, how many times have we heard from rookies going from the college game to the NFL game of just the different world of preparation? And whether that's mental, whether that's physical, the body, the rest, the recovery, practice, preparing for a practice on a random Wednesday in the season is different than you would practice on a college campus on a Wednesday, right, Vinny? Like, it is just two different worlds. So the fact that those conversations have been obviously happening is what we expect. Still good to hear. But the fact that it's based around nothing but preparation and the eye-opening that it is. And again, as much as it can be talked about, sometimes you don't know it. You can be told one thing, you got to live it, right? It has to hit you in the face, and that's why there's always going to be speed bumps no matter what for these rookies. But it feels and reported by others, the relationship between Kirk and Fernando is incredibly strong, which is as good, and we talk about best case scenarios, as good of a scenario as you could have hoped for when bringing in a Kirk Cousins into the fold with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and I think because Fernando, the work ethic is there, and it changes in this way, Vince. This is what you're looking at on the other side of the ball at this level compared to where you were in college. So the preparation in terms of seeing and understanding what you're seeing from what the defense is trying to do, and obviously what the Raiders are doing schematically as well is going to be different than what he did in college. And there are some footwork issues in terms of playing under center and seeing the game from that vantage point. All of those things, Kirk Cousins can help him see in a clearer way to start off. Because he's seen it all, and Fernando Mendoza is now just seeing stuff at the NFL level, whether it's his own offense or what the defense is gonna present itself. Things that your wide receivers are doing down the field in this particular scheme on this particular play call, that sort of stuff. So without a doubt, Kirk Cousins can help in that regard. But I firmly believe that the basis for work, the work ethic, the commitment to working is already in place. It's just now being able to hear from a pro's pro in terms of, hey, what am I actually seeing? Or what's the safety doing over there right there in that kind of a scheme? Why are they rotating the way they're rotating? So helping him kind of figure out the picture and what he's seeing, I think Kirk and for that matter every coach that's going to be a part of this, and also Tom Brady are going to be invaluable when it comes to that, to just kind of help expedite that process. But the work ethic, knowing how to work, knowing how to learn, knowing how to prepare to go out there and be the best. I don't think Fernando needs to be taught even one lesson in that regard. I think he's already got that, which is a great thing.
It's well said. Now can he put the pieces together?
Yeah.
Now can we see it on the field, right?
Can he understand what he's seeing and all that,
Because the talent has to match the preparation at this level at the same time in order to go from a guy on the roster to be good to great to franchise, right? Like all the different levels, however many levels you want to do it. And that is, I guess, the
I love the floor. Let's put it that way, Vince. The floor is like think of it this way. You just struck a nerve right there in a good way. When you look at Fernando's floor and think about Cam Ward's floor, I think they have two different floors right now. Like there was a lot of things that Cam Ward, needed to learn to go from college, the style of play that he played at Miami and now going to the NFL. I think the floor needed to be raised with a Cam Ward, and then obviously you start thinking about the ceiling. Once you get him to his floor, then you can get him to his ceiling. I think the floor is already in place for Fernando. The guy that I mean, think about what we saw in the playoffs in high leverage moments against really good teams, big games against really good teams, the best of the best at that level. And he was slaying those teams. So to me, he brings that right off the bat, a floor. And it's a very high floor as far as I'm concerned. Now, getting him to his ceiling, that's the next challenge. But I love the floor coming in the door right off the bat.
Yeah, and then that's kind of where I was going. Like the cushion that is his floor might be the most exciting thing about it.
Yep.
Because it almost,
there's a lot to work with there.
It almost, you can't put a ceiling on it because of seemingly everything we just talked about, the preparation, the mindset, the toughness, what he's already done, and the fact that the talent has already seemingly matched that to this point, the day before rookies report for his first NFL training camp. Much more on the way in hour number 2. As I mentioned, Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, will join us at about 8:30. We want to hear from you, Raider Nation. 702-365-9200. The ideal transition of power from Kirk to Fernando next here on The Tailgate.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
Deuce! Goodbye! Into the end zone! 60 yards! Touchdown Raiders!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker.
It's the trifecta for Bowers! His third touchdown of the game! And the Raiders with a chance to win it!
On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Flying through into hour number 2 here on the Morning Tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker. Coming live from Las Vegas, July 22nd, 2026. The day before the Raiders rookies report for training camp. We are a week away from the first practice of Raiders training camp for the 2026 season. You guys know me. I'm geeked up. I am fired up right now. I'm trying to contain myself because training camp's going to be a grind. There's going to be a lot. We're going to be out there.
Got to pace yourself.
You got to pace. I understand. I'm not good at that. Patience and pacing myself. I'm not good with, Clay. You know this by now. But here we are, less than a day away from the rookies walking into that facility, reporting for duty, and getting ready to be hopefully a big part of what the Raiders are building in 2026. 702-365-9200 is the number. The question we're asking today, the topic of sorts, is the transition of power. If Kirk Cousins is, as of today, the starting quarterback for the Raiders, what does the ideal scenario, the perfect scenario in your mind look like transitioning to Kirk Cousins? When does it happen? How does it happen? What are the circumstances? How do you see this playing out in your ideal world? 702-365-9200. Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, will be joining us here in about 25 minutes or so. We'll get his thoughts. But for now, we want to continue to get your thoughts. And while we wait to hear from you, Ryan McFadden of ESPN was on our show yesterday, and Vinny asked him this very question. What does that ideal scenario look like to you? Here is Ryan McFadden.
I would probably say when it comes to a seamless transition, like if everything, I think it'd be a situation where the seamless is to a point where you're at, like, you get to like week 6 or week 7, and you kind of like, you're seeing with the team. I take that back. I would say week 9. If you're talking about seamless, I would say, let's say you get to week 9 after, that big, because that's in between that big stretch where they have like New England, Buffalo, Los Angeles. So in between then, if this is the Raiders team where, they look like they're still ways away from being a playoff team, then you make that, move in between then. And, that might be tough for a rookie to go in there and like he's in that stretch where he's playing against a bunch of playoff teams. But at the same time, I think that's good experience from him as well. I think the middle of the season, it kind of gives you a sense of where this team is at and where they are moving forward. And, like I said before, if Kirk Cousins is playing really good football and the Raiders are, winning games and look like they have some shot of contending for a playoff spot, then yeah, you have to keep rolling with the best guy forward. But, if they're still, everything's shown that the playoffs are not in their future this year, then I don't see wrong switching to Mendoza, especially if he's ready at that time.
So that is one Ryan McFadden of ESPN kind of pointing to that mid-October, late October stretch, Buffalo, Los Angeles, right before that trip to the New York Jets in week number 10. So we look at that. Now, we did get a call earlier from our boy Oliver, and he had an interesting train of thought as well.
I just say marinate him, let him learn the pro game for a year. And, all his pro comps are Matt Ryan, Jared Goff. I'll take that. Winning 5 or 6 games and developing our young players, I think is what we don't want to hear. But I think that's the reality of it.
So that's Oliver talking about letting him marinate for a full year. Now, yesterday when I heard that, I'll be honest with you, I was like, Oliver might be the only person who says let him sit for a full year. But up on the text line, 702-365-9200, Jesse says the perfect transition would be Kirk Cousins playing the entire year through the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl. Oh. Kirk Cousins retiring, handing over the reins to Mendoza. Yeah, I know that is very unlikely, but you asked for the perfect transition, and that is the perfect transition if you ask me.
Hey, you talk about Matt Ryan. The Falcons were 4-12 in 2007. All right, that's why they ended up with the 3rd pick overall. Here comes Matt Ryan from Boston College. I know him well. He kicked Notre Dame's ass. Trust me, I know that dude.
That's why there's so much disdain when you say Matt.
I love him. And Matt Ryan, guess what? Started day one with the Atlanta Falcons. You guys want to know what the Atlanta Falcons record was that year?
You tell me.
11-5. The perfect scenario. That's not the perfect scenario. I'm sorry. You win the Super Bowl. That's the perfect scenario. Is Fernando Mendoza assuring the Raiders, I'm fine to start the season as the starter, and the Raiders being assured by themselves and what they see in and around Fernando Mendoza and to some extent their defense. Yeah, we're good to have him come out there and play. Like 4-12 to 11. I don't know what the circumstances were. Maybe they had a whole bunch of injuries the 4-12 season. I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons. But all I do know is they put their rookie quarterback in there ASAP, and he rewarded them ASAP, and there was a massive turnaround ASAP. So that's, to me, the perfect situation. I'm not necessarily saying a massive turnaround to 11-5 from 4-12. That would be fantastic. But I think ideally the perfect scenario, to be quite honest with you, is for Fernando Mendoza to be the starter day one because he earned it.
Agreed. That is the perfect. There's no better scenario in terms of the face of your franchise. But again,
that's why I don't think.
But
you can
if
just
Kirk
say,
is the starter, but that's the thing.
Yes.
If Kirk is the starter, then what is the ideal transition? Because to me, that is a fascinating. There's so many variables that could take place. We keep talking about, and we keep using. Well, what if Kirk's winning? We've already gone through the exercise that there's 2 wins in the first month. That I'm not going to, there's no guaranteed wins, but when you're looking at Miami week 1, you would imagine if there are on the Raiders schedule in the first month, Miami and New Orleans are those 2. If there are 2 wins, those are the 2 you would imagine, right? And then it's also at the Chargers, home to the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to look like, but let's just say there's 2 wins there in the first month. You're 2-2. And everyone keeps saying, well, if Kirk Cousins is playing well, what if the rest of the team's playing bad? And they're 0-4, but Kirk Cousins is playing well. Like, that's also an interesting scenario as well in terms of Fernando Mendoza when he starts. Because if the rest of the team isn't holding up their end, but Kirk looks great, do you really want to put Fernando in to an 0-4 team?
Yes. I want to get Fernando Mendoza out there as quickly as possible. And if Kirk is playing well, you never know what happens around the rest of the NFL. Somebody might get hurt. He played well. Oh, Kirk's kind of close to being Kirk again, or Kirk's playing good football. Let's call the Raiders and see what it would take to get him over here because our starter just went down. So you could throw out that scenario. But if they're 0-4. Yes, and as long as you don't think that he's going to get destroyed back there, then yeah, I think that you have to. By the way, Matt Ryan didn't miss a snap that year. There was no other quarterback that threw a pass. I was trying to figure out, all right, who did he have to beat out, and all that. I can't even find the quarterback on the roster because he said, no, you're going to stand over there, whoever you are, over there with the clipboard, because I got this, and we're going in the playoffs. They lost in the wild card round to the Cardinals. I think that might have been a Kurt Warner Cardinals team, but anyway. I don't think the plan is for Kirk to start the season. I think that's part of the plan if it plays out that way. Mm-hmm. I think the plan is to see what happens in training camp and then make a decision on what plan to what plan to execute. There's multiple plans that they are completely fine with rolling with, depending on what the circumstances end up being. So I don't think there's this grand plan. Because I hear this all the time. Yes, the plan is for Kirk Cousins to start. No, that's a plan that they would be. That's a plan of attack that they would be okay with executing in case there's any apprehensions for whatever reasons to start the season with Fernando Mendoza. But that's not the plan as we sit here today. The plan is to let this thing play out.
702-365-9200. Out to the phones we go. Jack in San Diego, welcome back inside the tailgate. What do you got for us?
Welcome back to you guys. It's great to have you back. I think we're overthinking this whole thing. We have a coaching staff that not long ago said you have to earn the shield. They're not giving anything to anybody, even if you're the number one pick. But I think when we've listened to the show over the last couple of months, you guys have said, we have said, what's the ideal situation? What do we look at win count? And I think most people you've had have had 6 wins, 7 wins. I haven't heard anybody say 11 wins. I haven't heard anybody say 10 wins. So to Vinny's point, you have a first-year head coach, you have a first-year defensive coordinator. This team is going much younger. It absolutely makes the only sense to put him in from day one. Vinny, I love the Matt Ryan. I've always thought Troy Aikman won in 15, but the Matt Ryan scenario plays out even better. You sign Kirk Cousins, who's fine. This show and Raider fans across the board, we act as if they signed Matt Stafford. Kirk Cousins has been fine, and he is a beautiful plan B. But, guys, if he's plan A, what are we doing in January? We're looking again at a top 3 pick, and we still don't know what we have in Fernando. Guys, I think he starts from day one. We ride the wave with everybody who's new, and we get excited for the future.
Jack in San Diego. Appreciate the phone call.
Yeah.
Bringing the heat from the San Diego
And as bad
Sun.
as that was for Troy, did he not survive? Last I checked, he's in the Hall of Fame with multiple Super Bowl rings. Like, he didn't get broken because of what happened those first couple of years in Dallas. And it was dire straits. Vince, I don't know if you remember it, where you were in your whole scheme of things, but they were terrible, and he took a beating. And it was, same with Peyton Manning. Okay, so what happened? Oh, my gosh, Peyton Manning, Mr. Hall of Famer, multiple Super Bowl winning champion, 2 Super Bowls with 2 different franchises, and was never the reason why the Colts didn't win other Super Bowls. He just happened to butt heads with a guy by the name of Tom Brady and some other really good players. So that's just the era that he was in. But short of Tom Brady being there, Peyton Manning would probably have a couple more rings right now. And guess what? It was terrible to start. He set a record for rookie interceptions in a season. Might be an all-time NFL record for interceptions for all I know. But it was a lot of them, and he took a beating, and it didn't look good at all. He was completely fine, and so were the Colts.
702-365-9200. Back out to the phones. Our resident Raiders historian, Raider 66, back with us. Good morning, 66. What do you got?
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Great.
I think I'm like the other guy. I think we're overthinking this, and I think that we already have the clue because the head guys, the GM, the coach, and Mr. Brady all have a philosophy that they shouldn't start. Doesn't mean that they won't. But I think that the question you asked before the last break, does he have to dazzle in training camp? Yes, he does. I think he has to dazzle. There was an interview that Brady did with the Fox Finance show. A couple of ladies on there, they were asking him questions. I guess he's got some business adventure going. But then they asked him a question about the Raiders and Fernando, and Brady went into this answer the question. He did not mention Fernando, so at the end of it, the one lady said, well, you didn't answer my question on Fernando, so I guess that means he won't be playing much. And immediately Tom goes, no. He goes, I love Fernando. He goes, but like all young players, as Vince said beforehand, it is a different world. They have to get used to this and this and this and this, so it takes time to gel. So I'm thinking, and I've thought this since they got Kirk Cousins, the reason they got Kirk Cousins was because he knows the system, and they had planned that he was going to start until whenever, and then Fernando would take over. Now, I think it's a fluid situation for the season. I don't think you can pin a day on, well, here's where they're going to, put Fernando in, unless you're circling the week after the bye week. But I think it's fluid because if they go 1-3 in the first 4, then, what's the point? You brought in Kirk to win some games, I think. And if that's not happening, why not put the young guy in there and see what we got? But the bye week comes at an interesting time because about 2/3 of the season is gone. So about 1/3 is left. You can get a pretty good gauge on Fernando in 1/3 of a season, and he will have plenty of time to learn over 2/3 of a season. So if I had to guess, if they were going to plan the passing of the torch, that would be it. But anything can happen. It's a fluid situation depending on how things go during the first part of the season. But I think that if he does dazzle, then maybe you rethink it. But I think they are so ingrained in their philosophy of not having him start week 1 that I think that Kirk's going to be the guy at the beginning, and they roll with that. That's my
Raider
opinion.
66,
but good thing,
with all due respect, I don't think their philosophy is to not start him. The philosophy is not to rush him, and there's layers to that. Like rushing him means he's not ready, but we're going to put him out there anyway. That's rushing, and that's a different thing than he's ready. We're going to start him. And so what I'm saying is, the philosophy is isn't we're not going to start him. That's our philosophy. We're just not starting him. The philosophy is don't rush him. And there's a lot of different ways to look at rushing, whether it's because Fernando's not quite ready or the offensive line's not quite ready. That they don't want to rush him into a bad situation one way or another. But they are completely fine with starting him if he earns it.
You're right. And you're right. I misspoke because you're absolutely correct. They don't want to rush him. And that was what Brady's point on that financial show is that, players come into the league. They need time to gel and everything like that. And you're absolutely right. I think that if he does show that, preponderance of having the playbook, the team is up to his level, that could happen. But I think the main reason why they got Kirk Cousins was to give him that first start until, obviously, Fernando's ready. Now, the good thing for Raider Nation is that every time I make a prediction like this, I am wrong. So that's the good so we're looking at Fernando starting week 1 or week 2, whatever. And everybody wants to see Fernando. Even the brass wants to see Fernando. But I think they have in their mind that he's probably not going to be ready on week 1, but he can change that. It is in Fernando's hands. He has the ball in his court, as they say, and he can change that. And I hope it works out for the best. So either way, we are going to see Fernando this year at some point. Thanks for the time, guys. Have a great day. Go Raiders.
66, thanks for the call, and perfect tee-up because here is that soundbite with Tom Brady and Fox Business talking about all things Raiders QB.
Okay, so you're not mentioning Fernando, so I'll let you go on that.
Well, I love Fernando, but Fernando's like every other young rookie. He's got to go out there and earn it like everybody else, and I'm excited about the opportunity for our team to have him as the first overall pick. He's done a lot of hard work to get to this point, but at the same time, like everyone at their age, none of these young players, none of these rookies have ever had a meaningful snap in the NFL. Their career and their journey will be determined by the work that they put in, by the adversities that they overcome, by the kind of teammate and team player that they are.
There's Tom Brady, and there's that soundbite Raider 66 was mentioning. And, I think Clint Kubiak echoed, a similar sentiment when asked not just about the quarterback position, but just different players in, I believe it was at the Combine. He says, look, the players are going to dictate who's on the field. They always do. Players always dictate it. We may have the say of what the depth chart looks like, but it's the work that these players put in that they show us of what they're able to do. And I think to Vinny's point, I don't think they're sitting there saying, we are starting Kirk Cousins plan. I think the plan is, hey, Fernando's not ready. Kirk's here. And we feel really good about that to start. What does the rest of that look like for Fernando? That's up to Fernando.
Players make decisions way more than the managers or the coaches in terms of playing time. Sometimes egos get into play, and I think we saw a little bit of that last year, but that's last year. But yes, typically speaking, Vince, the players are the ones that make that determination. And I don't think that he's going to have to go out there and look like prime Peyton Manning and dazzle every single day at practice. I don't think it's that kind of a party. I think it's, hey, is he competent? Is he running the show? Is he commanding the huddle? Is he making the right calls at the line of scrimmage? A lot of subtle things that coaches can see. He'll make some nice throws out there. There'll be some really big moments. There'll be some days where he throws 3 interceptions. It's inevitable in training camp. So I don't think that if you're Clint Kubiak, and you've been down this path so many times before, he's young, but he's been around the NFL a long time. He knows what he needs to see, and it doesn't have to be, you got to wow me, kid. You gotta just blow me over. That might happen, but I think more than anything, he knows exactly what it is that he needs to see for a quarterback to go out there and play winning type football.
Back-to-back great calls here on the morning tailgate. 702-365-9200. We'll get more of your thoughts coming up later on in this hour, as well as hour number 3. But joining us next from the Las Vegas Review-Journal will be Adam. He'll get his thoughts on the transition of power if Kirk is the starter, from Kirko to the Nandalorian. 702-365-9200. That's coming up next, but first.
Hey, guys, when it comes to your health, when it comes to your weight, when it comes to feeling better, how long have you been saying, hey, I'll start that tomorrow, I'll worry about that tomorrow? Well, guess what? All those tomorrows, they start running out pretty quickly. But here's the thing. Your opportunity is right now with City MD. If you're tired of feeling sluggish, frustrated with your weight, dealing with daily aches and pains, or just not feeling like yourself, it's time to take control. City MD in Las Vegas offers personalized wellness and weight management programs designed for real, lasting results. But they don't stop there. City MD also provides advanced pain therapy and primary care, giving you a complete head-to-toe approach to your health. One team, one plan built around you. More energy, less pain, better health, real confidence. And here's the thing. Appointments are filling up fast. So stop waiting. Stop putting them off. Give them a call at 725-255-7246. That's 725-255-7246. Ask for our good friends Andy or Claudia. They'll take it from there. Or just go to CityMD PHP, that's CityMDPHP.com right now and schedule your consultation. CityMD, stop waiting. Start feeling like yourself again today.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the morning tailgate.
Personally, I don't mind younger players sitting and watching and learning. I think obviously the pressure and the expectation of being number one and the amount of money that guys are being paid, a lot of times we throw guys out there when, they may not be ready, or they may not have the personnel around them that would really sort of facilitate, an opportunity to be really, really good. So, I think it all depends on management and what they want to do. And I think I got faith in John, the GM. I think he's going to do a great job.
That is Raiders legend Marcus Allen, recently on NFL Network, giving his 2 cents on when do we see Fernando Mendoza, the plan for the number 1 overall pick for the Silver and Black. Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. We're asking the question, the topic today, what is the perfect transition of power if Kirk Cousins is the starter? When do we see Fernando? What is the ideal scenario if that is how that plays out to start? We'll continue to get your thoughts, 702-365-9200. But joining us now, fresh with a tan, and can still taste those Mai Tais from the salty waters and beaches. Las Vegas Review-Journal's own Adam Hill. Adam, despite what you may have thought, I know it's early, that was not Marcus Allen talking about transition of power from Matt Gay to the Tokyo Toe or Special K. It was about Fernando and Kirk Cousins. And that's where we're going to start. Despite loving kickers, loving special teams, we have to start with the QB, with rookie set to report tomorrow and Fernando Mendoza. So we'll just kick it off with it right there. What is the ideal scenario for you? If Kirk Cousins is deemed day one starter, what does that transition look like to you?
First of all, people really care about the quarterback competition when there is a kicker battle?
I've heard.
you got to learn something about, the ratings and listeners and all that stuff, right? I mean, there's a kicker battle. Why would you talk about the quarterbacks? I don't think anybody really cares. I sometimes have to, look, I like to ask qualifying questions, I guess. Ideal scenario for who? For Mendoza, for the franchise, for the fans? I mean, I think there's a lot of different scenarios. I mean, obviously the ideal scenario for the franchise is that Fernando Mendoza takes over in 2027 because Kirk Cousins plays so well. They never move on from him, and they have a great season, and everything goes so well that Mendoza never sniffs the field, and Cousins is fantastic. I mean, that's, I think, ideal for, I guess maybe the franchise. I don't think that's necessarily the best for Mendoza's future. But I think that's the ultimate ideal scenario, that they just have this great season with Kirk Cousins and Mendoza doesn't play. But I think for the long-term, outlook of the franchise, you want Mendoza to get some look at some point in the season. I think it's probably somewhere around like week 9 or 10, where, just the season kind of has gone to a point where it's just not going to necessarily pan out the way that, they might hope in terms of, competing for a playoff spot, that sort of thing. There's a smooth transition period. We've talked about this, that there's not really an ideal place in the schedule. I think that was the first thing to look for in terms of this question is, was there going to be a place in the schedule? Was there going to be a perfectly placed bye week right in the middle, which there's not, it's late in the season? Was there going to be like a mini bye where they had like a home game on a Thursday and then the next Sunday they had another home game so they could, stay here, have an extra, 3-4 days, that mini bye at some point and make the move then? There's not that either. So the schedule makers didn't give them a natural spot to make this transition. But I think it is somewhere around, that week 9-10 area where maybe the season just hasn't gone the way they want. It's time to go to Mendoza, and they want to kind of make that smooth transition, bring him in, and finish out the rest of the season.
I'm going to throw an even more ideal situation out to you, Adam Hill. I'm going to take you back to 2007. The Atlanta Falcons go 4-12. That was the year Michael Vick with the dogfighting, all that kind of stuff, right? So they end up winning a coin toss with, by the way, the Raiders were a part of that coin toss and the Kansas City Chiefs to determine who picked third overall. There was a tie. It went to a coin toss, believe it or not. The Falcons won. They drafted a guy by the name of Matt Ryan. The Raiders drafted Darren McFadden right behind him. How history could have changed if they had won that coin toss. Anyway, Matt Ryan, the Falcons are coming off that 4-12 season. Matt Ryan doesn't miss a beat, starts day one. They go 11-5. They go to the wild card playoffs and reach the playoffs. Isn't that the ideal scenario, Adam, that he just wins the job out of training camp and forget about this whole sitting this year and seeing what Kirk Cousins can do? If he can win the job, that would be the ideal scenario.
I mean, I guess since you said ideal, we are looking at pie in the sky. I don't think this roster is there. I don't think they have that. And I don't think Mendoza is. I don't necessarily know that he would jump in and be able to do that. But yes, ideally, yes. Well, I guess ideally he wins the job at training camp and they win the next 10 Super Bowls, right? I mean, that's.
But I mean, you say pie in the sky, but there's so many examples of young quarterbacks who have actually played. I know that there's the scary stuff out there, but this isn't necessarily pie. I'm not saying they're going to go 11-5, but I think they can improve from last year with a rookie quarterback out there as well. To me, that's not pie in the sky. There's too many examples of it actually happening lately.
Sure, I don't think this roster is there. I don't think that even if Fernando Mendoza was the high end of what people think he might potentially be, I still don't know that's enough to carry this roster to that kind of level with the way that the rest of the division, the rest of the AFC is. I don't see that being a likely scenario, even if he played incredibly well. I don't know that that'd be good enough to carry this roster.
What
to
is
that
your
point.
biggest worry about the roster?
I mean, I still think there could potentially. First of all, there's not that top receiver target. That's one. I mean, I know they have Bowers, and I know that they've got a bunch of talent. I like what they have at the receiver core. I don't like that standout one. I do think there's still some question marks defensively, especially if Max Crosby's not fully healthy. Where does the rest of the pass rush stand? I like what they've added, but I don't know that if there's that high-end ability around them if Max Crosby is not 100% or if he's not able to be a game changer like we've seen in the past, or potentially he is moved, which I don't know that he will be, but that could be a question. I just think there's questions everywhere. Even though I think I love what they've done in terms of this offseason. I thought they had a great offseason, but I think it's step one toward getting there, right? I think it's I think what they've done is exactly what I thought they should do, which is build everything toward looking at 2027. And I think that's when they make that big move. And so I think the development of the quarterback should also be framed around that, right? Where you want him to be able to really hit his stride next year, because I think that's when everything is kind of targeted toward arriving for this team. To me, I feel like, and look, things have happened where people didn't believe in certain teams, and all of a sudden they, played way above their weight, and maybe it works out that Kubiak is completely ready to just hit the ground running and completely transform everything. I love everything they've done. Like, this is not an indictment on them. I love what they've done because I think they're building toward 2027, which is what I thought they should have done. They'd be way ahead of schedule, I think, if they did it this year, and that'd be great. I'm not suggesting it wouldn't be great if that happened, but to me, this has been a perfect build toward 2027, which is what they should have done and what I think they've done.
Well, then how contingent is for Fernando to start based on the offensive line being able to find the chemistry and be successful? And what's your timeline on this offensive line to get to that level?
Yeah, I think it could be good. Excuse me. I think it could be good. I think Linderbaum does change a lot. I think he sets a tone. I think he makes everyone better. He's the new term that people like to use now is force multiplier. He is that, and I think that's why they got him. And I think that is why Kubiak identified him as being they needed a center like him. He happened to be available. They made him the number one target in free agency. They got him. I love that, but it does take time to build that chemistry along that unit, and Linderbaum is playing with guys that he hasn't really played with before. I think that's another thing. That's a work in progress, and I think the offensive line, even if they didn't add somebody for next year, I think this is a line that's going to be a lot better in a year than they are right now. But I think they'll also add to it as well. But again, like the other positions, the reason I think they've had such a good offseason is I think they've done everything to set themselves up for the future. And this year is about getting to that next step. And not necessarily trying to take, which they did last year, I thought was trying to take too much of a step. This year, I think they're doing the right things in terms of building an actual foundation toward being successful down the road. And that's what I like about all these different positions, where I think they're going to be so much better next year than they are this year.
It's Adam Hill with the Las Vegas Review-Journal joining us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. I want to jump to the defensive side of the ball, if we may. And if you look at the three different levels, D-line, linebackers, secondary, which group are you most confident in that unit?
Oh, good question. I think if you look at, obviously what they did in the linebacker unit, I think you're most confident that they are improved from where they were last year. First of all, they need to be. It was a bit of an issue for sure. But they go out and they get Quay Walker, they get the Kobe Dean. They really bolster with veteran guys there, and I know that there's some question marks about them. Potentially, and people. Their names might be better than they might have actually been on paper for the last couple of years, potentially. But I think they're very, very solid players. I think they're good players that instantly make that group better. But also the defense is much different now, right? It's going to be under Rob Leonard. It's something we don't really know. I know there's a big talk about 4-3-3-4 and the change that happens there. I know that's just on paper. It's not going to be every single play. They're going to be in that kind of look. They're going to be in different looks all the time. But those are just different chess pieces that I think are going to be instantly better at the linebacker core. So I like what they've done at linebacker. I still think, like I said, I think there's some questions, but I really like where they are, and I have a lot of confidence that they're going to be better. And I have the most confidence that Rob Leonard is going to put them in really really good situations to make them better. Same with the secondary, right? I think this is what they're doing all over the defense, which is that they're just putting players out there that Rob Leonard will be able to experiment with, to move around, to put where he wants them to. And so, I like what they did in terms of bringing in some of the guys in the defensive backfield. I like Treydan Stukes. I like Dalton Johnson. Obviously, nobody has raved more about Jermon McCoy than I if he is healthy. I think my confidence is in the future of the defensive backfield. I don't know that they're going to be ready right now, but in terms of what part of the defense I have the most confidence in being where they need to be, down the road, I think it's the defensive backfield for sure. I love what they've done there in terms of bringing in different guys with different abilities that are going to be able to give Rob Leonard the creativity, the flexibility that he wants to kind of play around with his defense. So day one, they might not be there, but that is a group that I'm very confident in the future.
Adam, I don't think that it's a news alert that, hey, Jackson Powers Johnson, it's time to step it up right now. There's been various reasons why that hasn't turned the way the Raiders had hoped, making him a second-round pick. But how loudly is that clock ticking, and how do you maybe see that playing out with him over at that right guard competition?
Yeah, look, I think that if you're going to look at players in the spotlight who absolutely need to show something, he's at the top of the list. And obviously there's no history with Clint Kubiak, and there's no history with the offensive coaching staff really that has been around here. He's got a fresh start, which is something he probably needs. And he's got to be able to show them that he can be consistent. That's the biggest word. I mean, he has absolutely showed that he can put plays on film that are very fun. And I think that's part of why fans have been so excited about him, because you watch highlight films and you see him just clear space and knock people down, and everybody gets all jazzed up, and he's capable of doing that. But then sometimes he does that, and then there's nothing for the next couple of plays. Like, you've got to be consistent at this level, and he's got to show that he can, and I think he can. But I just think it's got to happen, and he's got every opportunity to do so. But you're right; the alarm bells are sounding and saying, "Hey, it's time," because I do think there's other guys coming, and I think that there are, not only this year but potentially going forward, if they feel like they can make a move there to get better. Like, I love Caleb Rogers, and we'll see how he kind of fits in too. I think that Spencer Burford is a guy nobody really talks about that much, but he started in the league quite a bit. I know he had a down year last year, but I think he can bounce back. Trey Zoom can play pretty much anywhere. I know they were trying to mount a lot of tackle, but he can certainly play guard. They've got options. And so there's options on the roster now, and there's certainly options out there. Guys that maybe could cut, guys that they could trade for, guys that they could draft next year. This is it's a do or die time for Jackson Powers Johnson. There's no question about it.
I loved your story on Kirk Cousins. You went all the way to Holland, Michigan to interview him and see his early beginnings. What did you glean from him as far as his mindset getting ready for this year?
Look, he's a guy who still, I know how not necessarily I know how fans look at Kirk Cousins right now. It's kind of the guy standing in the way of them watching Fernando Mendoza play. I think that's kind of plain and simple how people see him. But I think the Raiders see him as a guy who not only could be the starting quarterback, and I think is most likely to be the starting quarterback, but also a guy who can teach and lead and be an example for Fernando Mendoza. And, to kind of deviate from the question a little bit, it's Kirk Cousins, I think, shared a very interesting story with me, and he didn't say this is what his goal is or anything like that. It was not. I think he was sharing it because this is just who he thinks he is and who he maybe wants to be as a mentor, quote unquote, as a tutor to Fernando Mendoza. Not like a direct. He's not a coach. He's not a guy that's going to come in and tell him, hey, this is how you do it. But he told me the story that when he got to Michigan State, he was a walk-on. He didn't know if he belonged. He wasn't necessarily that comfortable. And he didn't understand his voice as a leader at all. And he said he got there, and this is the story, and he started looking around and trying to figure out kind of, how he was going to have that voice and how he was going to do that. And he said that he saw somebody on the team who was an older guy who was a leader by the name of Justin Kershaw. And he said he watched him, and he said, "Oh, that guy is just a leader because he understands he understands why his voice is important. He understands what he's supposed to be doing, and he just does the right things every single day." And Cousins said, "I didn't know what I was doing, but I watched everything he did, and I did the same things." And I said, "Oh, this is when you come in the morning. This is how you prepare. This is how you talk to your teammates. This is how you do everything." And he said, "I basically just did an impression of him." And that's how I learned how to be a leader. And finally, eventually I found my own voice and my own path, but I just observed. And I think that was what kind of Kirk Cousins was saying of, he just wants to do everything the way he's supposed to, the way a professional does it. He wants to prepare the right way, do the right things every day. And hopefully other guys, didn't use the name, but, I would assume Mendoza, pick up on that. And eventually they find their own path, but they just look and see every day what he's doing and do the same things, and that's how you kind of learn to become a professional and a leader. I did reach out to Justin, and he said that's kind of silly. He's like, Kirk Cousins is a natural leader. He was born leader.
He literally did the opposite of everything I did.
Yeah, but he said he's like, I learned more from Kirk than Kirk ever did from me. But Kirk Cousins still to this day says that's my guy. I learned from him. And I think that's what he wants to do, right? Just do the right things, and hopefully, if guys want to, pick up on that, they will. And he just wants to set that example. He's not going to come in every day and say, "Now, Fernando, this is when you're supposed to come in, and this is the first things you're supposed to do." Like that's not what it is. It's just about doing the right things and setting the right example, and hopefully, other guys follow and watch.
That is Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal. We are obligated as we end every segment. Do you have a hot take on the kicking competition?
I do that I don't want to share.
Maybe next week?
Is there? How about this? Is there a reason the Raiders are using Special K and not Tokyo Toe?
Ooh, it's a great question. I'm intrigued.
It's gonna be Matt. It's gonna be Matt Gay, and I think that.
Whoa! You're supposed to say spoiler alert.
I think Special K ends up maybe on the practice squad this year.
Wow.
I didn't mean using him as a kicker. I mean using changing the name.
The name itself.
No, I know, but you've been pushing this kicking competition, so I just wanted to bottom line.
Yeah. I'm excited for it.
So am I, actually. That would be great if he outkicks him and wins the job. That'd be really good. Great story.
Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal. Adam, practice next week. We'll see you there. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. Should be nice and hot.
Nobody told me it was going to be hot.
What?
Clay, is that true?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Better not be.
It's
or I'm not going.
Such a cool temperate climate right now.
702-365-9200. Back to the conversation, back to the text line. Ideal transition of power from Kirk to Fernando next on the tailgate.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR 920 AM. Let's dig in to the morning tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Welcome back inside the morning tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Jason up on the text line, 702-365-9200. Good morning, gentlemen. Fernando doesn't need to see any action as long as the train is on the tracks. Now, if the season goes off the tracks like a crazy train, then let's get him some burn. Funky Raider, good morning, 3 the hard way. I believe Mendoza should play when the O-line shows consistency. I trust Kubiak and Vinny. How about my Dodgers? All in caps. That was directed to you.
Yeah, I know they played pretty well in New York, but I didn't see what they did last night. I know they dropped the first game, I thought, to the Phillies in Philadelphia. So, but the Dodgers are gonna
Dodger.
They're going to win the World Series. I have plenty of Dodger fans in my crew, right? Growing up in California, I'm like, and I'm on a thread with them, and the bemoan, the this, the that, and it's like rinse and repeat every year. This time of year, oh my God, I'm like, guys, what do you guys even? This is just so I just roll my eyes. Like, really, we're complaining right now. You're going to win the World Series, or you're going to get there. So
whoa! They got to deal with the Mets. They're in New York this weekend.
We are in Selma. We've got some good young players, some 3 really good young pitchers, a couple of good positional players, but and Juan Soto, the ultimate stud. But I would sell everything else outside of that. So yeah, that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. I'm good with it. I've been down this road before. It's the Mets, for crying out loud. We have bursts of beauty, and then we go right back into the literally that's our history, and I'm okay with it. It's all about Notre Dame this year, guys.
Vinny put the yard sale sign up.
Without a doubt.
Everything must go.
Let's see. Hot Sauce Raider. Mendoza has an MBA. He wants all of his signing bonus up front so he can invest it and make the money work for him. He doesn't want cars or bling. Smart dude. But he's got to get on the practice field ASAP. Go Raiders. Again, that is Hot Sauce talking about no contract signed as of yet. He can still report to rookie camp tomorrow, but he cannot hit the field per rules, CBA, things of that, until he has inked his contract. One of 8 players in the rookie class remaining to sign said contract.
2 of them are on the Raiders. Right? Are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about not signed.
Yeah, 8 in total.
Oh, I got you.
2 of the 8 are indeed Raiders, so
yes,
a quarter of the unsigned, 25%. How about that math, Clay?
Oh,
take that,
Mr. Wizard.
Yeah, no calculator needed. Hour number 3 is on the way. Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie, will be joining us next here on the Morning Tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
There have been plenty of other coaches, but why not us? Why not this staff? Why not this group of players? I look at it as what a great challenge. We're going to be about the work.
He is back, baby! And the Raiders regain the lead with Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
It's hour number 3 here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the Silver and Black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. The Raiders rookies report tomorrow. The first practice a week from today. 2026 campaign is here, and as excited as we are, our next guest is salivating, foaming at the mouth as we speak. Woo! Woo! Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie. He said enough of the film. I need some fresh film. I need some new tape to crunch, to bury my nose in. Marcus Johnson, good morning. Welcome. Good to hear from you, Marcus. And I imagine getting some fresh film is at the top of your list these days.
Yes, I'm excited. It was funny. I always tell Matt that we're always excited to get the new film, to get all into it, and then it then ends up kind of preseason film. It's not exciting as regular season film, so the excitement kind of dies down by the 3rd week. But that first time when it just pops up, that brand new film, you're like, let's go, and then it dies down a little bit. But then you get to the season and it revs back up. But yeah, I'm excited.
Film is film, Marcus. We must glorify all of it as much as we can. All right, so the topic of the day is, we're talking Fernando, we're talking the quarterback position, and as much as we've talked about it all offseason, it's becoming real, right? The rookies report tomorrow. First practice, as I mentioned, a week from right now. Practice will be underway, and then this quote, I put in quotes, quarterback competition will be underway to see where Fernando Mendoza is out, how quickly online he can get. We've been asking the question today, transition of power. If Kirk is the one de facto starter as it stands today, what is that perfect scenario for one Fernando Mendoza? So I'm going to ask you kind of in a different way. What are the things that he needs to show in order for that transition of power to be a seamless transition for the Raiders?
I think what he needs to show to kind of show that he's ready for the job is really not really the throws or anything like that. I think it's the knowledge of the protections, the checks, and like knowing what to do when he gets to the line of scrimmage, and them feeling comfortable with him kind of, seeing things, pointing out blitzes, pointing out what's happening around him, have a good understanding of what the offensive line wants to do and how that works, basically so he doesn't go out there and get himself hurt, because that's how a lot of these young quarterbacks, when they end up being shook or in a lot of these things, it's because they don't have a good, they kind of thrown out there, and they don't have a good understanding of the nuances of playing quarterback. Because I'm sure Mendoza can go out there, catch the football. He sees an open guy, he could throw it to him. I mean, he has that talent. He could do that. He's a very accurate quarterback. He has all those things, but it's just the small nuances that they're going to be looking at. So we get deeper in training camp, and he starts to really hit on those things, and he starts to get better at those things, and he's making the throws as well. That's when you start to see him creep up on Kirk Cousins and put them in a tough decision where, okay, so he's ready mentally. He's ready. He has all the nuances. He's calling things out. He's working with Tyler Linderbaum, seeing things, making the checks. He understands the protection system. He understands everything from the smaller part playing quarterback. That's when I feel like they're going to be ready, because I think that's when you have a rookie quarterback. I mean, that's what you're really worried about the most, especially when you run the West Coast offense. You want that guy to be ready from that type of situation, because you can go out there and get yourself hurt if you don't see that blitz coming, and you're just standing out there and you just get popped and you're fumbling and things like that. You don't see things coming. You don't recognize some of the things that defenses are doing in front of you to change those protections and where to go to. I think that's going to be very important for him. And if he can get those things down really early on, that's why I think he'll start to creep up on Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins' leash will just become shorter and shorter by the day.
Specifically as it relates to Fernando Mendoza, how confident are you that that's exactly what he's going to do?
Oh, I'm pretty confident in that. I think that he's just that type of guy, right? I think he's the type of guy to study those type of things, understand that's what is really needed from him to become that starting quarterback in the NFL. Because, I really feel like that's a little bit of the difference between college football and NFL football is you have to have that knowledge of some of those smaller things, because that's what the better quarterbacks in the NFL did. And, Derek Carr was able to start week one because of that, because just from his brother and things like that, he had a good knowledge of those things already. So you felt comfortable putting him out there week one. And, he didn't, take too many sacks his first year. And, he did have a pretty good offensive line as well, but he also always helped his offensive line because of that knowledge. So I think Mendoza understands that. He probably, the coaches are probably telling him that, when he's having some issues in training camp mini camp, when he's having some of those issues in mini camp that he's having, it was probably because of that. Some of those pressures that were coming at him, they probably had him a little flustered because he didn't have that full understanding of everything that's happening around him. So once he gets those things down, I think it's going to be just him going, because pre-snap, he is already almost there, in my opinion. So I think if he can just get those small nuances in there, and then he'll be able to just be rolling pre-snap. And then, of course, the post-snap coverages is always going to come later when you're an NFL quarterback. Rookies, the quarterbacks, they're always going to have a little bit of a struggle dealing with some of the things NFL teams do post-snap. But pre-snap, if you're ready to go and you can get it done, for the most part, especially if you're running the ball really well, you can be a pretty good quarterback. You know what I mean? So I think I'm very confident that he can get those things done.
Well, how beneficial do you think this preseason Week 2 game against Houston will be, not only for the joint practice that week, but what we've understood from D'Amico Ryans in the preseason? They game plan for these games, and they often blitz on defense. So what could be gained from that preseason Week 2?
Oh, there's going to be a lot to be gained. Just not even from Mendoza. I think it's going to be a lot to be gained just for the offensive line, too. I think it's going to be really tell us where the offensive line is. It's also good. I think it's going to kind of, show who's winning some of those battles, right? Some of these guys go out there and they have some serious struggles that day or during that week of those practices. I think it's going to really, show who is the big dog on the offensive line. Like, you got DJ Glaze and Charles Grant. Charles Grant goes out there and he handles Will Anderson a little bit better than DJ Glaze does. You're going to see, Charles Grant maybe start to move up a little bit. And I think it's going to be big for the quarterbacks, too, just like what I was talking about, because that's going to be the big test for Mendoza, too, is just having to deal with what the DeMeco Ryans and those guys do. Even though DeMeco Ryans from a coverage standpoint pulls down, they play straight up because they have so many good players. Like they don't have to fool you when you have Lassiter and Singletary and Bullock and Petrie back there in the secondary. You don't have to be too fancy because those guys are so good. So I think that might be a little bit having to deal with that a little bit with the changing in coverages. You won't see that too much from the Texans, but it's just kind of what they like to do from the blitzing perspective, or even like what they do on the defensive line. They mix it up on the defensive line. They do a lot of movement, and that's going to be a big test, not even just for the quarterbacks. I think it's going to be the biggest test for the offensive line because those guys are all dogs over there. I mean, and even last year when you reviewing some of the tape and going back to that game they played against them last year, DJ Glaze had a little bit of problem with Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter, and even some of the inside guys they had a little issue with when it came to the pass rush. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a factor there, but I think that week against the Texans is going to be huge just because we're going to see who is ready on the offensive line to kind of take that step and actually be that starter.
It's Marcus Johnson of Tape Don't Lie joining us here on the Morning Tailgate. Marcus, to that end, we didn't break any news earlier this week when we were talking about guys that need to step up and Jackson Powers Johnson being at the top of that list, right? That's no secret. Let me ask you this way. We know who JPJ is as the person. The player kind of is still a little bit of a question mark, right? His availability has been not there, especially last season. There's been good, there's been bad. What about the way he plays the game when he is on meshes well, not necessarily with Clint Kubiak offense, but what Rick Dennison and what he expects out of offensive lines and the way they work? Is it a match? Do they mesh? Or is this square peg, round hole?
No, I think they match. I think they match just because JPJ is a very athletic player, right? I think he's very athletic for the offensive line position. He has great movement, and he's really good in space too. So one thing he does really well is blocking in space, and I think he's set up for the run outside zone and that type of offense that they want to run. I mean, especially with Rick Dennison. Rick Dennison comes from that outside zone, wide zone system. He's been an offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, running of those systems for the longest. So he is JPJ is a perfect fit for what they want to do from that perspective. Like I think when it comes to his movement skills, it's something he did at Oregon too. Oregon, they ran a lot of outside zone as well. So he's very familiar with that system and getting in space, and he has the athleticism to do that. So I think when he's on, he's a great fit for that. Like he does a good job of getting the second level on combo blocks and getting to the linebacker, knowing when to get to the linebacker, moving guys that way. It's more like technique-wise what JPJ has to work on. He's got to get that pad level down. His pad level has been way too high for 2 years, and if he doesn't get that down, there's just going to be certain guys that he's not going to be able to stop, right? I mean, he's a very powerful guy, very powerful dude. He can move the average defensive tackle, but when you're playing some better players, right, you're playing like Chris Jones worked him last year, right? And a lot of it is because of his technique where, Chris Jones could take advantage of that every single time. And he has to make sure that he has that pad level down and he's not just standing straight up trying to make these blocks and feeling like he can just overpower somebody like he did in college. And like I said, there's going to be some NFL players he'd be able to do that to still just because he has that high level play strength that he has, and he's a very powerful guy. But if you don't have that technique down, you're not going to. Certain players are just going to have that leverage. It doesn't matter what you do or how powerful you are. If they have the leverage on you, they're just going to toss you out of the way and make a tackle. So he's got to get better from that perspective. But when he's on and he has that pad level right, and he's moving in space and he does all those things, he can move guys and he can create holes. And we see the Bears game is a perfect example. That was probably his best game last year. You saw a lot of that movement, and that's why Genty had that huge game. A lot of it was because JPJ was just moving people. A lot of big runs that Genty had that game, you could see JPJ had something to do with it. And I think that's what he looks like when he's on. And there's some other games too, like the Jags game. He had a pretty good game too as well when he was able to make some of those big blocks like that. So if he is on, that's what it looks like. The offensive line is making a lot of plays, and he brings so much energy to the offensive line too. When he's down there making blocks, 20 yards down the field and things like that. I think it just brings that energy that you like to see from your offensive line and that toughness that you like to see. So that's what he's really got to work on. But the biggest thing, JPJ, he's got to stay healthy. He's dealt with injuries. The past couple of years, he got injured at the Senior Bowl. The injuries are starting to pile up. So he's got to find a way to stay healthy for 17 games too, as well. So they always have him on the field, and he can find a way to continue to grow in the NFL, and so he can get better.
Marcus, we haven't even taken the field for practice one yet. I'm going to fast forward it to the end of the season. And in doing so, I want you to look at Pro Football Focus, and I want you to call up Treydan Stukes' page, and I want you to go down to his positional alignments for his rookie season in 2026. Where is Treydan Stukes going to line up the most in 2026?
I think where he's going to line up the most, in my opinion, in 2026, I think it's going to be like a free safety. I believe he's going to be really roaming the field. So I think they're going to get the most out of him there. Because I believe they have Jeremy Chin here still. I think Jeremy Chin still is a good player, right? I think Jeremy Chin had a solid year last year, on a defense that, had some good games at some points and, had some rough moments. I thought Chin is still a solid player that's kind of forgotten, right? And I think, you kind of switch up with the new defensive coordinator. I think he can find a way to make some plays for him. So that's why I think this year you're going to see more of Stukes at free safety. And I think like in the next couple of years, you'll see him become a lot more versatile, move around a little bit. But I think that's the best spot for him right now, just because I think he has that range and it allows him to roam the field. And I think also one thing he does well is he tackles in space really well. We're actually covering Treydan Stukes and him versus Palomar on the training camp preview that we're doing, dropping today. So when I was going over his film, because I watch this film a lot, that's one thing that really stood out is his ability to tackle in space is something that you want from your free safety. That's the last guy who has a chance to make a tackle, and I think that he can be that guy. So this for this year, I'm not saying it's going to be throughout his career where he can't be that versatile guy. I think this year he's going to be playing a lot more free safety. I think maybe even based on the matchup, or maybe if Jeremy Chin isn't playing well or something like that, he might kind of move into more of that role where he's playing a little bit in the box, playing a little bit more in the slot, guarding tight ends and things like that. But I think this year you're going to see most of his snaps are played at free safety. And I'm not saying that they won't move him around and, have him play the slot at some points in time to get certain matchups, but I still think that the majority of the snaps are him going to be, being that post safety and when they're playing cover 3 or just playing that too high safety, so he can use his range and his speed and then, his intelligence too. Because one thing that, I really noticed on film is that he kind of goes rogue sometimes a little bit. And I think that's what helps him get a lot of interceptions, right? Like his interception against ASU, that's a free safety play. That's him playing free safety, and he has this crazy interception where he basically mosses a guy for the ball, just takes it from him. And that's him playing free safety and having that 4.33 speed where he can stay over the top and have that range and kind of bait quarterbacks a little bit is where we're going to see maybe him make some plays for the Raiders on defense this year. So I'm really excited to see him kind of play that free safety role just because his knowledge of concepts, his intelligence is just very high level, and he's coming in kind of already being a little bit of a veteran at 25 years old. You're going to see him kind of, I think he's going to come up really fast and play really well really early just because of all that package he has, but I expect him to play a little bit the most at free safety.
I enjoyed the latest Tape Don't Lie up on YouTube as you and Matt Holder went over a couple guys on the defensive line, including Jonah Laulu as well as Tonka Hemingway. What did you learn from that, the footage and the Tape Don't Lie, but at the same time, what could be expected for this year for those two?
Yeah, so I'll start with Laulu. I think with Jonah Laulu, I think there's a lot of a potential with him that he's just got to kind of fix his technique a little bit, because he has the play strength, and I think he has a little bit of some pass rush ability that are there, and he just got to make sure he keeps working on his craft. Okay. I think if he come in this off season and he was working his craft, doing a lot of those things, finding ways to make sure that he's got his technique right, get his hands in the right place, make sure his pad level's right, make sure he understands what's happening in front of him. I think he has some potential to really become a at least a pretty good defense tackle in the NFL, because you just see those elements at times. Like there's certain times where he's getting pushed back, but there's also times where he's just running guys over, and you see that power from him that he has. He has a lot of power, and when he gets his hands on you and it's in the right spot, and he has the right pad level, he really can't be moved that much, and especially being how small he is, at 290 pounds. He just that power, he makes up for it by having that power, and then you see that the movement skills that he has. So there's a lot more potential there with Laulu. I think when it comes to Tonka Hemingway, though, I think Tonka Hemingway has to add more to his game. I think he only had like one pass rush move last year that it worked at times, but he's got to add more to it. He's got to add something to help him win more consistently, because he does have that natural pass rush skill. But I think what main thing Tonka Hemingway has to do, he has to get stronger. Like you hope this offseason that was told to him, and that's a big thing that they're focusing on, because he's got to put some power on, because he gets pushed around so much, and because he has good technique. If him and Laulu switch technique, I think Laulu would be the definite starter. We probably wouldn't even be talking about this, right? Because Hemingway has the technique. He always his pad level is always low. He's always just having his hands inside. Everything is there for Hemingway, but sometimes he's just not strong enough, right? It's just a play strength issue with him, and that's why he gets pushed around. But like I said, if him and Laulu switched, from a technique perspective, it wouldn't even be close. Laulu would be that guy and be that starter and to be a totally different player. So, if Laulu can fix his technique, he could actually be a solid starter for the Raiders, in my opinion. But I think Hemingway, he's got a little bit of ways to go. When I was watching the film, he's just got to make sure that he's got to get stronger. That's going to be his factor. I mean, even if he has to put on some weight and maybe lose some of that athleticism, to help him stay on the field, because you're even if you are a defensive tackle, right? I mean, there's not a lot of defensive tackles who are getting 15, 20 sacks. I mean, those guys are Hall of Famers. I mean, those are Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt type of guys. Those guys are Hall of Famers who's getting those levels. So you kind of want that 6 to 7 sack. That's what you get from a good defensive tackle, in my opinion. But if you can't play the run as defensive tackle, that's where the issues really, become a problem for you. So if Hemingway can't do that, and he just can't take on guards inside, and he can't take on double teams at all, he's not going to be able to see the field. So he's got to put on some weight. He's got to get stronger for him to kind of grow and be a better NFL player, in my opinion.
At the Mark John NFL on the X, Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie. Marcus, I want to ask you about another second-year player for the Raiders, Dante Thornton Jr. He got a lot of run early on his rookie season. Things tapered off. You look at what the Raiders have done in that particular position group. Looking at the tape of what he was doing early on in camp last year, what he wasn't doing as the season went on, his rookie season, in your estimation, how large is the gap that he has to cover in order to be, part of the conversation of the wide receiver room? And I guess, two, can you cover that gap in one offseason with a new scheme, new offense, new coaches, et cetera?
I would say it's a huge gap. I would say it's a gap, but it's not a huge one, right? I would think that what he needs to do, in my opinion, is he's got to play more to his size. I mean, because, I think Thornton is, he's 6'5", right? And it always feels like when that ball's in the air, he's not playing to his size. Like, even when you're fast, right, and you're running past somebody and it's underthrown, I mean, you're 6'5" still, right? You should still be able to go up and get that football and make plays for your quarterback, even if is underthrown, just because you have that size. And when you're running past somebody, I mean, the corner he's in panic mode, so you still have the ability to kind of come back and catch that football, draw a PI, do something like that. And I think he kind of was playing small. He was playing small, in my opinion, last year. And I think that's kind of one of the bigger factors with him, because it's, I think throughout the season, you can see him become a better route runner, when you watch him on film. And a lot of the times is when you have to watch it where he's not getting targets, right? He's not getting the ball, or some of the mistakes. Like, he had some pretty good routes against Cowboys where he didn't end up getting the ball. He had a good route against the Chiefs where I think there was a quick pressure that JBJ gave up, and he didn't end up getting that football. So I think the route running has been improving for him. And, maybe that really shows up in camp, and, he kind of shows it off. because he has the size and the speed. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you watch that guy and he blocks too, and that's something that's big for Kubiak in his running game. If you see that big guy moving like that, he's going to catch your eye, and that's going to kind of put him maybe in a better spot than some of the other wide receivers if he goes out there and plays to his size. I think that's what is the biggest thing for him is you can't play small. You got to be able to track that football in the air. You got to be able to make plays, jump and put it in the air, and make some of these huge plays that we expect from a 6'5" guy who runs a 4.3, right? And that's kind of the issue I have with Dante Thornton is just it always feels like he plays like he's 6'1", but he's really 6'5", and he's got to find a way to play to that size so he can really just close that gap, so he can really find a way to stay on the football field, because he has the willingness to do the dirty work, right? I mean, like I said, he's going to block, he's going to do all those things that they really like in this offense from their wide receivers. So that's going to have him stand out a little bit too. But I think the biggest factor is him playing to his size and acting like you're 6'5" when that ball's in the air.
The Raiders open camp next week. They'll ramp up to when they put the pads on. I think it's day 4, day 5, somewhere right around that point. But when they do, and they go to 11-on-11, where's Marcus Johnson's eyes going to be to start off? My eyes will be on offensive line. That's really my biggest factors here is seeing where this offensive line is and how they handle things, right? I think, how they work together, is Pittsburgh for going out there and really show that he has intelligence that I see from him on film to kind of keep that job, or is he going to start to fall off a little bit, once they get in some of those pass rush reps and those one-on-ones and things like that. That's where my eyes are going as soon as the pass come on. Like, I want to see, does Caleb Rogers take a step? What does Trey Zune look like? Charles Grant versus DJ Glaze. How does that look? So that's exactly where my eyes are going. It's right to the offensive line, because I think that's one. It's a big factor for this season. I mean, you drafted Ashton Jeanty. You need the offensive line to work for him as well, so he can become the running back everybody wants. And also, I think the offensive line shows some growth. It makes them feel even more better about putting Mendoza out there a little bit too, if they have to. If they feel Mendoza's ready and they feel like the offensive line is at a place where they feel like they feel comfortable with it, they can put Mendoza out there when they feel like he's ready. So, and even with Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins, one thing with him on film, he's an older guy. He can't really move anymore. He doesn't have that movement, so it's going to be big for him too when you put him out there. So that's exactly where my eyes are going. Straight to the offensive line. I want to see how those guys are playing and how they're working together, and who ends up being that main five that they have to go for the season, because once they pick that main five, you want it to be those guys, because it adds the continuity. You don't have a lot of guys switching around and things like that, like we've seen from a lot of these Raiders coaches the past couple of years. You want that five and have them go throughout the whole season. So that's what I really want to see. I want to see them going straight there, because that was a problem last year, and I want to see how much growth we've seen from some of these young guys on there.
Here's Marcus Johnson at the Mark John NFL on the X. Tape Don't Lie up on YouTube. Go check out their work. The work continues, Marcus. 1 week till practice gets going. Looking forward to appreciate the insight as always.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys.
That's Marcus Johnson here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. It's time. Put up or shut up. I don't know why I said that. We still got some time.
Why are you yelling?
We still got some time. 702-365-9200. We'll get your final thoughts on the topic at hand, the transition of power to one Fernando Mendoza, next here on the Tailgate.
Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the Morning Tailgate.
They're crazy. I didn't understand, the Raiders, mantra and culture, being from, growing up in the East Coast in Miami. And I got to then understand, a portion of it when I was at Berkeley, because Berkeley's right next to Oakland, and a lot of my teammates in Berkeley were, diehard Raiders fans, and just being around Oakland, getting to experience the Raiders, I'm like, okay, these guys are crazy. And then now, being in Las Vegas and, interacting with a lot more Raiders fans, being a part of the Raiders organization, it's been such a blessing. And whether people, whatever they have to say about the Raiders organization, I know whenever I go to a fight every single Sunday, I know I want I want the people who are going to ride and die. And those are what the Raiders fans and Raiders culture has portrayed to me so far. So I'm hyped and I'm blessed to be a part of it. And it's given me that much motivation to do everything possible I can to then best serve, like I said, my teammates, coaches, and the culture and the fans. It's just giving me a whole nother level that I want to get to.
That is one Fernando Mendoza on the Rush podcast with Max Crosby talking about really his excitement to be part of the nation. And you kind of love to hear how he's digging into kind of every aspect of what it means to be a Raider. Vinny, Clay, how many times have we said, I'm sure every fan base says this, but the Raiders are different than any other fan base, not just in the National Football League, but in professional sports. There's a certain type of attachment before, during, and after between fan, between organization, between player that is just simply different. And you can hear it in his voice, the way he's talking about just how he's kind of digging into every aspect that is silver and black. And it's one of those things you love to hear. Now you get excited for him matching that enthusiasm with the talent and the play on the field.
No doubt about it. And by the way, good news, Jamal McCoy is getting set to sign his contract, so it looks like he's going to be with the rookies tomorrow officially and out on the field when everybody starts hitting the field. So and I would expect a Fernando announcement pretty soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. Things are fluid, so it can go one way or another. But I wouldn't be too concerned. But yeah, everything echoed everything that you just said, Vince. But good news on McCoy for sure.
Okay, there's something about what you said there though, because Raider Nation is a lifestyle other than just like we're going to put a hat on Sunday, and the ride or die when he brings that up, that goes along with what Raider Nation is. To other teams when they look at the Raiders, they always feel like Raider Nation is a part of the team. That instead of just like some people sitting in the corner of the end zone, it's beyond that. So to know that Fernando is embracing that early on, I think that bodes well for somebody that understands what the expectations are, obviously from the team, but also knows that he's part of a culture that he'll always be a Raider. So certain things about your game and your first year, there's going to be expectations, but there's also going to be a certain amount of lenience and patience as well from Raider Nation.
And to me, that's
He's there. Baby, right? You want to put it that way. They're youngin' to put their arm around. It's not like they traded for him. It's not like he was a free agent signing. And all those guys are beloved as well in their own way. But there's something to be said, right? About a homegrown talent and about especially a homegrown young quarterback talent. Man, if you can deliver, you're going to have streets named after you, and you're going to be a permanent fixture. As somebody that the entire fan base is going to wrap their arms around and support. There's just something about that.
To me, it's just another example of the preparation. Right? Like, again, that's what I mean by digging into everything that is the Raiders. Like, he understands the task at hand. He's the number 1 overall pick. He's a quarterback. His play on the field needs to speak louder than anything he says behind a microphone. He understands that, but he also understands the importance of what it means to be a Raider to the fans, to be part of this community, to be part of this Raider Nation, right? And to me, that's another shining example of his work ethic and preparation for everything and everything that goes into it. And so that's why that gives me confidence. I know they're just words, and I know that that's not throwing a ball or throwing a touchdown, but for me, that's why it gives me less concern about what he's going to do on a football field because of how much he holds everything near and dear to his heart and how much that he values that.
The effort that he puts into it.
Exactly.
And that's something that I'm not even and it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That Kirk Cousins is there to hold his hand a little bit. I don't necessarily think that in some ways every rookie has like we were talking about earlier. What am I seeing? What's going on down the field? What's the safety doing? Where's the money? All those types of things from a veteran's eyes, that's great. But he has already got it when it comes to the work ethic and what he needs to do and how he needs to be wired to then and take whatever the information from whoever it is, his coaches, Kirk Cousins, everybody, and put it to its best use. But he's already wired. You don't have to. There's no effort that you have to teach Fernando Mendoza. There's no baseline of, hey, this is how we learn at this level. He knows how to learn at every level and has mastered that at the levels that he's already played at. That's not even, for me, a concern, and I know it isn't for you, Vince, and this is another piece of evidence of that, that he literally took the time to really do some work in investigating into this new, fan base that he's coming into, and this new organization, and what it all means from a franchise standpoint to everything to the fan base standpoint, which I think is a beautiful thing. But it speaks again to what you just said, his work ethic and his care, and that part of it is will be a seamless transition to the NFL.
So as you mentioned, Jermod McCoy set to sign his rookie deal later today. Should be good to go. And with that, we'll give a collective from Raider Nation. That's one down, one to go. So let's get to some final thoughts up on the text line before Clay has a special gift for everybody. I had one. It's gone now. Found it. Sergio up on the text line. Man, Mendoza getting first-team reps against that Houston defense might be rough, but if he does show he can hang with them, he can hang with the rest. Fire him up week 1, just win, baby. So that's Sergio talking. His eyes are on Houston, that preseason game down in Houston. Chris says if Kirk is winning, Mendoza can sit and he can learn. All right. That was the extent. Sit and learn. East Oakland Raider. What up, fellas? Transition all depends on 1, the O-line, 2, the O-line, and 3, most importantly, the O-line. If it looks like it did last year, keep Cousins. We don't want to kill 15. Bryce on the text line. Mahomes sat a whole season, essentially. It will be what it will be. Play him when he is ready. It will be what it will be.
That was a much different-looking Chiefs team back then than what the Raiders are working with right now. Okay.
Blackbeard, very specific. I love this.
All right.
Well done, Blackbeard. The script, boys. Mandalorian plays second half of week 5, then takes over for week 6, 7, rest of the year, which are home games. Absolutely perfect spot. O-line will have the time, and Nando has the time to be ready. Week 5 is at New England. So Blackbeard is saying second half at New England. Away he goes the rest of the way. That's his perfect transition period.
Wow, okay.
Another Jason. I'm not big on drafting guy number 1 and not starting him. When he gets his opportunity, he needs at least 3 full seasons starting, maybe 2 if it's bad, but got to get him on the field. No way we believe Kirk is better. They have to get it right. Andre says Brady has a unique experience, perspective on the benefits of being able to watch. It took Brady years to develop into what he became. If he's making the decision, I bet he sits for a bit. For every Aikman and Manning, there are 10 guys who got ruined by playing too soon.
What 10 guys? I'd love to know who those guys are.
Andre, send those 10 guys.
And usually,
you got 19
to
minutes.
me, it's those guys just weren't good enough. You know what I'm saying? Because, so anyway. That's not that, yeah.
Let me get one more in here. Raider67 says, gents, I've been here every day soaking it all up. Day 1, Cousins can make all the checks, the calls, run the offense without unnecessary glitches, while the O-line gels, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs acclimate to Janocko and Kubiak's offense. An iPad and headset is ideal for Mendoza. As well, it's ideal for the Raiders organization, ideal for Kubiak, ideal for the offense and the defense. Kirk will serve his purpose well. The entire building is on board. Mark, Tom, Spy, Clint, McCoy, Janocko, and Sullivan, even Cousins on board. Transition to Mendoza at either after week 7, before the Jets game, or during week 13, depending on the record. That is Herb in the 404 Raider 67. Gage, look back at 2014 Raiders. We signed Matt Schaub to play and eased Derek into the lineup. Derek showed he was ready to play. I think Fernando could start week 1. Any later than week 6, we are doing him a disservice.
And the Raiders were actually one game worse than they were the year before. I think they won 3 games compared to 4 games, something along those lines in Derek's rookie season. So they took a little bit of a step back with Derek Carr as their starting quarterback. I don't necessarily think it was his fault. The team just wasn't that good. But the very next year they went 7-9, and the very next year after that they won 12 games. Who would have known? Who knows what would have happened had he stayed healthy in year 3? But that's kind of where I'm looking. You're trying to get Fernando ready for the future, and to me, if you talk to Derek, I'm sure he learned so much, even in a 3-13 season, which I believe that was the record that they were his rookie season, with all the lumps, with all the pain involved, with all the this, with all of that. He was better off for it. The next year they won 7 games, so they improved from the 3 wins the year before, and after that it was 12 wins in year 3. So that's kind of what my plan would be.
Good stuff, good opinions. The final sit-down is coming up next, but not before Clay's gift for you.
All right, we still got tickets for Totally Tubular Festival over at the Sahara Pool. This is this Saturday, July 25th, with amazing bands from the 1980s, Thomas Dolby, Flock of Seagulls, Bow Wow Wow, Animotion, Tommy Two-Tone, Escape Club, and much more. All you got to do is come by and pick up these tickets, but you got to be caller 9 first at 702-365-9200. Coming up next, it's the final sit-down on Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
Oh, Paisan. Oh! Back up. I'll talk to him about it. I've been telling you for months now this guy's no good. I want to sit down. All right. Answer the phone. I want to sit down.
Hey! On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Oh!
It is the final sit-down here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Big thanks to our guests on today's program, Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, Marcus Johnson, Tape Don't Lie, and you, the nation. As always, we appreciate you. The news, I guess, of the morning. Jermod McCoy set to sign his rookie deal and report to camp, no questions asked, tomorrow, which would leave just one Fernando Mendoza of the Raiders rookie class unsigned. But again, nothing to worry until there's time to worry, and then at that point, we shall worry.
There'll be plenty of worrying then. We have it all bottled up inside us, just waiting to come out.
So while we stay tuned for that, Vinny, did you see what transpired? Was it this morning or late last night? The Miami Heat's YouTube page. Did you see this?
Fill me in. I'm intrigued.
Posted the LeBron James introductory press conference. Had the date, had all this stuff saying they were about to introduce LeBron James as the newest member of the Miami Heat. It was immediately taken down very quickly, apparently, but as you can imagine, something like that, the cat's out of the bag. This morning, the Miami Heat posted on their LinkedIn page in search of a new YouTube manager.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. That could be one of two things. Either they've gotten a heads up and they're getting prepared, or they're just getting prepared. And I got to say, full disclosure, Vince, I don't know if you do this in your line of work, but I've written stories. Let's put it this way. When we go into a draft, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say 2 years ago, the Raiders were. This is a perfect example, actually. 2 years ago, Raiders had the 13th pick overall.
Right.
All right. So I did what they call laydowns. Those are stories that you write for the Raiders drafting this player, that player, this player. With the first pick, 13th overall, the Raiders selected Tennessee cornerback, whoever. Right.
Correct.
And so you write about 5 of them because you don't know at 13 it could be anybody. And you write about 5 of those things, right? There's scenarios where if somebody hits the wrong button, that gets published, right? One of those right. And by the way, just so you know, of all and I probably did 10 of them. Brock Bowers was not even one of them. So there you go. That's how big of a surprise that pick was when you really think about it.
That's the worst, though. On a personal standpoint, because I have to do those as well at certain points of the year. But yeah, those are. Yeah,
they could be a little bit dicey. You know who the other one was that I didn't get right, and I probably did 15 of these. Was your boy from Alabama, the tackle from Leatherwood? I didn't even have Leatherwood. Wasn't even It wasn't even to the point where I was like, should I do Alex Leatherwood? No, I won't do Alex Leatherwood. He wasn't even on the radar, you guys, and nor was he on a lot of teams' radars. That's why he's out of the league, a former Raider first round.
I didn't know Leatherwood was my boy. I didn't get that text message.
Did I ever tell you about the run-in I had with it? It's the locker room after COVID. Remember 2022 in Ohio, right? That was the first time the Raiders locker room was back open after COVID, right? The Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. I go into the locker room. I'm the only guy there, and he's like, I went up to talk to him because I know who you are. You're saying all that smack, and I hadn't been. And he goes, maybe it's just because you're part of the media and everyone's been
You're like, no,
me,
it's the other Vince.
yeah, exactly. You meet Sapienza?
Yeah, you're the worst.
I would have thrown you under the bus so quick.
I know, that's fair. Vinny Bonsignore, Clay Baker, on Vince Sapienza. Thanks for joining us here on the Morning Tailgate. Stay with the flagship for the Silver and Black. JT the Brick, 12 to 2. Q Myers, Unnecessary Roughness from 2 to 5. We are back on a Thursday. Have a great day, everybody.